LA is the most magical place because there is a palpable energy of limitless possibility. But it can also go the other way and be the saddest place. And the only person that can control that is you. My name is Goldie Heart. I am an artist, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and all-around creative here in Los Angeles, California. I'm not originally from Los Angeles. I grew up in sunny South Florida. I went to college in Orlando, and I moved out to California in 2010. I grew up with a wonderful childhood. My mom was a kindergarten teacher, and my dad did real estate, and I have two knucklehead little brothers who are now wonderful, and I love them very dearly. And I grew up in a very suburban, normal, sweet life. While I am so grateful for the normal structure and foundation that growing up in South Florida gave me, I just always knew I was a little bit different than everyone else. As young as 2 years old, I would drag this teeny little piano in front of my house and knock on all the neighbors' doors and make everyone come to my driveway and just put on a show, because that was just what felt the most normal and natural to me. And I think that translated into my parents putting me in dance classes and theater programs. And so any sort of avenue where I could be on a stage is where I wanted to be. Growing up in a dance studio, my dance studio was owned by former professional dancers. And so that really gave me the foundation and the training for what the entertainment industry is like. They trained us from a very young age how to audition. Don't get discouraged when you hear no. You're gonna hear a million no's, but all it takes is one yes. And no doesn't always mean no forever. No just means not right now. And so instilling that in a child at a very young age, I think, is what gave me a lot of the resilience that's required for this industry. To be in entertainment in general, you have to have a little bit of narcissism and a little bit of delusion, because you have to believe with every fiber of your being that what you have to share with the world is important and needs to be heard by as many people as possible. Because if you don't have that, you're just gonna get eaten over by all the other people who do believe that. There was definitely moments where the no's and the rejection were just crippling, because you just feel when am I ever gonna get that chance? When am I ever gonna get that break? But I also feel I know who I am. I know what I have to say is important. And I know that my story is something that the world needs to hear. I had toured with a dance company the summer before my senior year, and that's what I thought I was gonna do. Music I always loved, but I didn't know the first thing about how do you get a record deal? How do you even record a song? All I had really done is local theater, live performance. I didn't know the first thing about the music business. But dance, I was that is a path I see. That is something I can achieve and attain. And the stage is where I want to be, so that must be my lane. My parents knew I needed a little bit of growing up before I just moved to New York City or Las Vegas. And so they encouraged me to go to UCF in Orlando. And I joined a dance team and kind of kept following my dreams in different ways. And by joining that dance team, I ended up getting recruited into a urban Pussycat Dolls sort of group that was being started by this woman, Royce Reed. That was such an interesting experience for me, because that was essentially my first professional job in entertainment. I got to be one of the main vocalists, and one of our coaches at the time was this woman, Cassandra Lewis, who is, in my opinion, one of like the greatest vocalists on earth. She was Celine Dion's vocal director. She was the voice of the Cirque du Soleil show in Orlando, and she was one of our coaches. And so I got to mentor and work with her. And she was really the person that was like, you've got the chops. Like, if you want to do it, you can do it, but you can't stay here. You've got to go, and you've got to go do it. That was it for me. That was all I needed to hear. And I was like, I'm going to Los Angeles. The second I landed in LA, I was like, this is where I live now. And so I found a roommate, found an apartment, and never looked back. I had always been sort of a big fish in a small pond. And here I was, like a tiny little guppy in this sea of talent. Everyone is talented here. Everyone is beautiful. Everyone's anatomically perfect and globally influential. And it is just unbelievable. Don't bother with me if you want to get down with me. I spent a lot of my teen and 20s partying like a rock star, soaking it all up, living every experience that I could. Back when I moved to Los Angeles, we didn't have Instagram. We didn't have all these social media apps connecting everyone and everything. And whatever your lane was, you sort of had to pick one. It was like, if you want to be a dancer, you have to live at the dance studio. You have to be friends with the choreographers because that's how you'll work. I really wanted to do music. So I was like, I'll put dance on the back burner for a little bit. I started making music with different producers, ultimately ending up in one of the biggest writing camps of the era. It was called Free School, and they had done Chris Brown's Beautiful People album. They had done Boom Boom Pow for the Black Eyed Peas. I even got to do some vocals for one of the biggest stars in the world once. And that is where I think, being a naturally optimistic person, I had all these big hopes and dreams. I was like, I can do this, I can do that. And when I got into this very professional environment, everyone was like, oh no, we like keep it simple, stupid. Don't say this, say that. And I was like, oh, but I'm an artist and I'm a poet. I can't just change my lyrics. They're my heart and my soul. Like, I don't want to talk about that. And they're like, well, that sells. So this is not just music. This is the music business. If you want to be in the music business, this is how it is, kid. I felt myself slipping away. And I felt myself starting to sacrifice and giving up parts of my personality, what I stood for, all of this just to make other people happy or just to write records that I thought were going to sell. And I am slightly, just naturally, I think a little bit defiant by nature. And the music business, when I first moved here, was a lot of like old men in suits telling people who they need to be and what they need to say and what they need to do. And I was very young at the time. I was like 21, 22. And so just seeing so much substance abuse and late nights in the studio, always drinking and drugs and all of this stuff going on, it kind of, I had to take a pause and be like, if this is what it looks like, I'm not sure I want it. Let me take a break. And so I took a little pause, did yoga teacher training. That's when I stepped away from trying to climb up the ranks of the music business. I was like, I'm going to find a way to do it that is authentic to me, because I would rather do that and I would rather have it take a long time than sell my soul for somebody else's dream. And that got me into a much more grounded, centered place where I just started making music with my friends again. And that was good enough for me. I feel like my life has been a series of failures that I like to remember them as redirection, because failure is not the end. It's just the next step or your next pivot, or where you need to shift focus or shift alignment to be on your own path. I've had so many little rejections, little failures, and some really big failures because I chose to not go the traditional route. There was a lot of things I didn't see coming and a lot of failures I didn't anticipate. So a lot of my career, I say I get by with a little help from my friends, because a lot of my friends were all doing the same thing, some in different fields, and we really came together to support each other and build each other up. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without them, because executives are brutal. I have had executives who are friends of mine sit across the table from me and say to my face, like, this is a hobby for you. You will never be in the music business. How are you going to make money? Like, this is not for you. And in that moment, I was like, okay, bet. We'll see. And I could have let that break me. But what you have to remember, especially in a creative field, is that art is subjective and it means something different to everybody. And so no one person's opinion, that was my ultimate issue with all the labels in general. It's just your opinion. It's not a fact. And only time will show what is fact from fiction. The worst things that happen to us in life are not to break us, they're to show us how strong we are. And you get a little bit stronger every single time. One of the most important, valuable truths anyone has ever told me is that what other people think of you is none of your business. And what you think of yourself is absolutely everything. And a lot of times in Hollywood and in entertainment in general, people get very intimidated and they're so worried about what other people are thinking about them, when in reality, other people aren't thinking about you at all. They're thinking about themselves. They're worried about how their hair looks, not how yours looks. They're worried what their outfit is presenting like, not what you're wearing. And that's where a lot of people get caught up, because a lot of entertainment is about your presentation and what people think of you. And the reason most people don't make it is because they believe that they have to be somebody else, because they've been told they have to. But what you think of yourself, it will always be the most important. And if you are being authentic, that is what will resonate with people. Hollywood is a very competitive by nature place, because we are told to believe that there are only a few jobs and everybody out here is fighting for a few of them. And the biggest lie, in my opinion, that the industry and the world tells us is that we are in competition with each other, when in reality, we are all so different and we are all so unique, and there is enough success to go around for everyone. The only way the people in power can keep control is if they convince us that the people standing next to us are our enemies instead of our friends. And that, I feel like, is where my career has allowed me to have a very different trajectory, because instead of trying to compete with everyone around me, I have used all the talent around me as a way for all of us to leverage power together by throwing our own concerts, by throwing our own festivals, by throwing our own charity events, and whatever it may be. I firmly believe that we rise by lifting others up. So united we stand, divided we fall. Right at the end of 2022, I had been working with the same artist, producer on and off for like 7 years. We had a really intense bond and relationship, and it was probably a little bit like Stockholm syndrome-y. Like he had somehow convinced me that all the best music I was gonna make was gonna be with him, and there was no point in working with anyone else because anything I did with somebody else was terrible and trash, and we needed to change all the lyrics and do all of this. But we had been working on an album for 2.5 years, and we had all these big plans. He was getting a record label. We were gonna do this together, all of this stuff. I had residencies all over LA, all of 2022. My own residencies at the Black Rabbit Rose, which is a phenomenal music venue in LA, at Hotel Ziggy, which was an amazing spot on the Sunset Strip. All these things were happening. I had done a private concert for Britney Spears. I had performed for Jessica Alba's birthday and Soulja Boy's birthday. Like, crazy things were happening. And then at the end of the year, my producer disappears with the album we had been working on for 2.5 years, won't get back to me, completely ghosts me. And I'm like, what do I do? I'm exhausted because I'd just been performing so much, so struggling with burnout. Everything I'd been working on for 2.5 years seems like it's falling apart. I had been working on other projects, just working myself to exhaustion. And then right before my eyes, it felt like my entire career, just like the rug got completely ripped out from underneath me. And I didn't even know I was capable of feeling so sad. It really gave me a whole new understanding of mental health and what people could be struggling with, because I had never experienced, suicidal ideation and thoughts and anything like that before. And it was a very real experience. And I'm fortunate that I have wonderful friends that were able to talk me through that. But I went back to Florida, just went on a little family trip with close friends and family. And the second we landed, a couple hours later, I get a text from one of my very dear friends out here that's a picture, and it just says, "Ah!" And it is a billboard that was in partnership with music.com, right in the heart of Hollywood, Sunset Boulevard, my face as big as my face has ever been anywhere. And I was like, oh, okay. I have no idea how things are gonna work themselves out this time, because I was out of money, out of resources, just worked myself into exhaustion and burnout beyond belief. But I'm gonna take that as a sign that this is my shot. So I hit up a bunch of huge producer, songwriter friends of mine and said, hey, I got fucked and I need your help. And I'm still endlessly grateful to this day that every single one of them was like, oh my God, I got you. Tell me what day and I'm there. And so in the beginning of March, we did a 6-day writing camp. We cranked out the start of 20 amazing songs that we've been in the process of finishing.
Oh, man.
And they have started to come out now. After I started, just making music with my friends again, a lot of my friends were also aspiring filmmakers. So we decided to pool all of our resources, and I had different friends directing each video, but we were all meeting together to give it a solid through line so that it felt like one cohesive body of work.
You want your validation in a box, suit and tie, but he's mine.
We're all creative, we're all artists, and we just wanted to make things together. And all of my friends just pulled every last favor that we had. We were getting venues for free because we were like, cool, we'll throw a party here afterwards as long as you let us shoot during the day for free. I get by with a little help from my friends. That is what I think is really inspiring for the younger generations now. So much can be done on your phone. Find like-minded creative people and just start making stuff. The first thing you make will not be the best. And I think in the era of social media, we see so much that everybody feels like their first work needs to be at this high level. when people want to watch you evolve. I think the reason some of my fans are so committed is because they have watched every step of my evolution. And the people I've been, the level of art that I create, the level of songwriting, it all gets better and better the more you do it. But the most important thing is to just start and to just try and to just do. Because an object in motion will stay in motion and an object at rest will stay at rest. In 2015, I was actually working in fashion at the time because I got asked to be my friend's assistant in working in luxury runway as an assistant buyer for 2 major boutiques in New York, which is nuts, but so much fun. So I went from yoga teacher training to sitting front row at Paris Fashion Week, which was also like a secondary dream come true. I've always loved clothes and fashion, and I've had a vintage business and always been just like part of my creative being. So while I was doing that, I just started making music with my friends. One of our covers got seen by some people that asked us to sing at their wedding, and it just happened to be the niece of the head of HBO. So HBO's event planner was there helping with the wedding. He sees me perform and he comes up to me afterwards and he is like, "You're perfect. I'm doing our Golden Globes after party as a 1930s movie set. Can you do like a 90-minute jazz set? I see you like on this big gold staircase with a grand piano." And I was like, okay, like twist my arm, why don't you? This is a dream. So we did that. It was spectacular. And from that experience, that's what really boosted me into the live performance scene in LA. I started doing different jazz nights all over, private events, charity events, celebrity parties, all of those things, and really worked myself up to being one of the top live performers, live vocalists in town. And that is also a way that I was able to like leverage a lot of my relationships, just make art with my friends. So I've been doing this a long time. And what's been crazy about this year, from my last like big rejection, abandonment, everything falling apart, to like the Billboard that kicked off into me getting this entirely new team of remarkable producers, management, PR, attorneys, like this world-class team. It felt like it came almost out of nowhere. And we've just been building and growing. And it has felt like everything I've worked for, every sacrifice I've made, and everything I've done was all finally coming together. I was detoxing and purging and cleansing and like purifying my vessel to like birth the creation of Goldie Heart into the world. After everything that happened to me, I really felt it was important for me, because I'm naturally a bit of a workaholic, to have a little bit of a separation, especially after like the burnout, meltdown, crash of 2022. And I'd never really been able to like find an artist name that like felt like me, felt like something I could live with for the rest of my life should it pop off. And I was just sitting here on this couch one day with a friend of mine, and I was like, Goldie Heart. And I was like, that feels like me. That feels correct. As Katie, I felt that I had hit almost a glass ceiling with my creativity, with my self-expression, because Katie is my given name. It's, it doesn't just belong to me. It belongs to my friends. It belongs to my family. It belongs, to everybody who has a preconceived notion or idea about who I am, who I should be, what I should be doing and saying. And Goldie Heart is just from my soul. It's my truest voice, my most authentic self. It really is my heart. And also what I want to be and what I want to say in the world is really embodied in this persona of Goldie Heart. In November of 2023, we released my very first Goldie Heart single. It's called Golden. And it really was like the perfect introduction to this rebrand, to this rebirth.
Midnight, looking around at all the faces, moonlight, shining through my darkest places. My life turns around and rearranges. Only constant is the changes.
And then the wildest thing happened. Less than a week later, I found out that I'm pregnant. Yeah. Which brought me to my knees completely, because it's something I always wanted, but I was just shocked because I'm like, how could these two things that I want more than anything in life, that feel like they are right for me and meant for me, how could they possibly be happening at the same time? Like, I don't know what to do here. This is crazy. Like, I found out on a Thursday. The following Tuesday, I was shooting my first Goldie Heart music video. So many things, so many emotions. And after I got over the initial shock, I get a random text from one of my dearest friends in the world. Her name is Shawnee James. She's CeeLo Green's wife. She's like, "Hi, sweetie, just thinking about you. How you doing?" And I'm like, oh my God, can I call you? And so I call her, and she was like, you know, I love you and I support you no matter what you decide, but a child is a miracle and a blessing. And you just changed your name to Goldie Heart. Like, what if this is what Goldie is all about? And whatever you do, I'm gonna support you. But I just want you to remember, this is not a this or that scenario. Don't think for a second that you can't have both. And the second I heard that, I felt it fully. And every single person on my team, all my producers, everyone was like, this is amazing. You're gonna be the best mom. Like, we got you. What can I do? How can I help? And so that is probably the most exciting thing and the most overwhelming thing that really brings me to my knees. Yeah. I'm super excited. I have so much music rolling out. I've now trained an AI digital twin, and I'm really excited about that because that's really going to allow fans from all over the world in different time zones. Like, there will always be a version of me that people can engage with. They can learn more about me. They can learn more about my music, what's coming next, what I'm into. I've linked my Amazon storefront of all the different products I like. I'm very much a futurist. I love technology. I've done tech consulting. As technology really started to evolve, I found myself getting brought into these different tech companies as a consultant to sort of help bring these really big, complex ideas and figure out how to make them palatable to a consumer. I think technology is here. It's not going away. And it's only going to evolve and get faster and faster. And it scares a lot of people. And that is sad for me because I think it's just so much all at once that people are just, they shut down and they don't even want to break in, or they don't know how. And so another project I've been working on is this Work Different with AI community where people can join for free. We're partnered with the AI Skills Center. So there's courses for different enterprise to creators to everyone where we can all step into the future together. We're at such a critical point where I don't want people to be left behind because everyone is important to me. And I do believe we can all get there, but we have to help each other. One of the greatest lessons I have learned from being rejected as many times as I have is that sometimes you have to let things fall apart so that better things can come together. If I wouldn't have let go of certain scenarios in my life, it would have just taken me down with it. And instead, I was able to thrive from the experience, because the second you let go of something that's not right for you, you create all of this space where way better things can come in. I believe that everything is for your benefit and things will always work out. Your blessings are your blessings. No one can block them but you. And I get my certainty in that from a higher power. And I think having a spiritual practice and growing up in a spiritual environment and exploring different spiritualities and paths is what allows me to keep going when things feel like they're too tough and you just want to give up. It's usually when it's the hardest and you feel like giving up the most. Take the time to get to your core, authentic wants and needs and figure out why you want what you want, because your why is what is going to allow you to never give up. And if your why is as authentic as you think it is, then you will get there. Because especially in entertainment, success is hard work meets opportunity. Every little no just makes you more refined for the yes. And as long as you keep refining, eventually you'll be the shining star that you are.